Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Sandra Wilson, and I am the program assistant in the Museum of Advancement and at the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. Prior to this, I was a cultural interpreter in the Interpretive Services Unit, and I have been with NMAI since 2007. I'm here today speaking with National Native American Veterans Memorial Project Director, Rebecca Troutman.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Sandra. As Sandra said, my name is Rebecca, and I'm a curator here at the National Museum of the American Indian. I've been project curator for the National Native American Veterans Memorial since 2014, and I've been at the museum since 2003, which was the year before we opened on the National Mall. Much of my work at the museum over these past several years has been with contemporary art, with our contemporary art collection and exhibitions.
Can you tell us about the early stages of the memorial?
Sure. So in 1994, Congress passed legislation which authorized the museum to create this memorial to honor this really long and rich tradition of military service by Native people and to raise public awareness of this tradition of service. That legislation, which passed in, as I said, in 1994, was 10 years before the museum opened on the mall. And so in 2013, the legislation was amended, and that enabled us to move forward with the project in early 2014. So when we began work on the memorial, we knew right away that it was going to be really important for us to seek guidance from the people whom the memorial will honor. So we began by forming an advisory committee of Native American veterans and family members to share their insights with us and to assist us with outreach about the memorial. And the guidance that they've given us has really been important to us throughout the project.
And what type of criteria did NMAI establish in looking for prospective advisory committee members?
So we wanted the group to include Native American, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian veterans and family members, but men and women from across the country. And we wanted it to be representative of all branches of the military and of several eras of service, going from the Korean War up to the present. So this photograph shows a number of the members of the advisory committee. The committee, in addition to veterans, also includes family members, including a Gold Star mother and a Gold Star father. Some of the committee members are tribal leaders. Many of them are very involved in veterans organizations in their communities or in their regions. And some are also veteran service officers for their tribes. So in addition to being able to share with us their own thoughts and perspectives, their own experience, their own insights, they were also able to share the kinds of guidance that they've been hearing, the thoughts and perspectives that they've been hearing from other veterans that they've been speaking with. And so, as I said, the guidance that they've given us throughout this whole process has really been invaluable.
Why did NMAI host a consultation process for this memorial?
So yes, the next big step in the project was outreach about the memorial in the form of consultations. So consultations, community consultations, have been really important, an important part of NMAI's work ever since its founding. They helped to shape the creation and opening of the museum on the National Mall, the inaugural exhibitions, as well as the Cultural Resources Center in Suitland, Maryland. So for this project in particular, we knew that it would be important for us to spread the word as widely as we could about the memorial, and also to hear from Native American, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian veterans and family and community members as well, because we wanted to better understand what they want to see in the memorial, what are the values that it needs to embody, and what they wanted the experience of visiting the memorial to be. So we spent about 18 months traveling across the country. We held 35 consultations in 16 states and the District of Columbia. So this map shows all of the places that we visited. We visited at least once each of the 12 regions of the country as identified by the National Congress of American Indians. We visited several of them more than once. And we learned a lot through this process about what we need to accomplish with the memorial. So as I said, this map shows the places that we visited. For example, we were hosted by the Southern Ute Tribe in Colorado, by the Navajo Nation in New Mexico, by the Mohegan Tribe in Connecticut, the Suquamish Tribe in Washington State. We were hosted by several communities in Oklahoma and California both. And we held 3 consultations in Alaska and 2 in Hawaii.
And how did the advisory committee members participate in the consultation process?
So the advisory committee members were really important to this consultation process. They helped us to select locations to hold the consultations, sometimes in their own communities, sometimes neighboring or other communities. They helped to connect us with veteran service officers in communities and with veterans organizations, and they assisted with outreach about the consultation process. They participated in the consultations and took part in the discussions. And then after the consultations, they helped us to look back and think through what we'd heard in the consultations and how it would advise us to kind of distill it into what we needed to keep in mind for creating the memorial.
And if memory serves me correctly, I believe we both went on a leg of these consultations back in 2017.
We did. We got to drive together through Arizona and New Mexico. We were hosted by the Navajo Nation and the Hopi Tribe. And yes, got to see a beautiful part of the country that I always love to visit too.
And so what did you learn from all of these community consultations?
So the things that we learned in the consultations really shaped the design goals for the memorial. And these are the things that we asked artists, architects, designers to try to accomplish with the designs that they were submitting as part of our design competition. So we learned that the memorial must be inclusive, that it needs to honor all Native American, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian veterans, men and women from all eras and all branches of service, from the Revolutionary War going up to the present and into the future. And so this graphic that you're seeing here kind of shows, it brings together the feedback that we received during the consultation process. And this is what we used to help guide artists and designers as they were developing their designs for the memorial. So we also learned that the memorial needs to respect the long, powerful tradition of service in the military by Native people, and this sense of an inherited responsibility to protect the homeland, family and community, and way of life. We heard that the memorial should also acknowledge the contributions and the service and the sacrifice and support of the family members of those who have served. We heard that it should reflect Native spirituality, again, in a very inclusive way. And we heard that the experience of visiting the memorial should be a welcoming, contemplative, and healing one, whether for veterans who served decades ago, for family members remembering their loved ones who served, or for young service members just returning home for their service. This sense of healing was really important to the people that we spoke with. So as we've been talking, we've been showing some of the renderings of the memorial, and the memorial is designed by Harvey Pratt, who's a Southern Cheyenne artist, also a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran. I think that Harvey really brought to his design his own experience, his own service experience, and his experience growing up in this veterans tradition, this tradition of service to his community. And so I think that with his design, he's really managed to accomplish beautifully all of the things that we were asked to do.
That's insightful, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
You know, I guess the one other thing I'd add is that one of the things that we often asked in our consultations was we asked veterans why they had chosen to serve. And we, of course, heard many different responses because people have so many different experiences. But something that was kind of an overriding theme that we heard again and again was this sense of, again, an inherited sense of responsibility to protect including protecting the homeland, protecting the land where people's ancestors have lived for generations and centuries, and the land that their ancestors have protected. And so a sense to continue to protect that land. And so I think it's really fitting that this memorial is placed in the landscape outside of the museum. It kind of connects it to that sense of place.
Thank you, Rebecca. Now, we'd like to open the program up to questions from the audience. We have our first question here. And the first question is, what did you hear in the consultation process that you didn't expect?
I think when we first started this process, one of the things that we expected was that the most fitting location on the museum's grounds for the memorial to be would be someplace really prominent, very visible. So, say along Independence Avenue or Maryland Avenue, someplace where it would be seen by anyone who passed by the museum. But as we began the consultation process, what we heard from veterans and families was that it was much more important to them that the memorial be in kind of a quieter place on the grounds of the museum, so that the experience again could be a more contemplative experience. And so having it situated as it's going to be in the landscape, the woodlands landscape to the east of the museum and overlooking the wetlands, the trees and the water there will kind of help to separate the memorial from the noise and commotion of the city.
And we do have another question here. How were the Native Hawaiian community constituents involved in the consultation process?
Yes, that's a good question. So as I mentioned, it was very important that this memorial honor Native American veterans from the contiguous states, as well as Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian veterans. And so we did make sure that these perspectives were included throughout the process. So we have an advisory committee member who is a Native Hawaiian veteran, as well as an Alaska Native service member. We had Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian perspectives present on our jury, and we did hold 2 consultations in Hawaii too, one in Honolulu and one in Hilo. It was very important that we find a design that was going to be meaningful to people from so many different traditions, so many different backgrounds, and it was important to keep these voices present in throughout the process.
I'm afraid that's all the questions, the time we have for questions today. And thank you so much again to everyone who joined us, and have a wonderful day. If you would like to learn more about the National Native American Veterans Memorial, or if you would like to make a donation to the memorial or donate in honor of a friend or loved one, you can do so at americanindian.si.edu/NNAV.